What you can see now is this pair of pants has a cuff on here at an exact length. It's not going to come out while I'm walking, and it's here as long as I want it to. Hi, and thanks for joining me again on my channel for StitchClip. I really appreciate you showing up today. StitchClip, again, is the world's very first hand sewing stitch guide. I've invented this to allow myself and others the ability to hand sew without the use of a sewing machine to get some basic tasks done when it comes to modifying clothes or making repairs. So if you've seen any of the previous videos, the StitchClip will let you do a couple of different things to include hemming pants to length, turning pants into shorts, doing repairs on things like shirts and jackets and purses, things like that. Today we're going to be talking about a different topic. This is how to make a semi-permanent cuff. And what I mean by that is when you were a kid, you probably would cuff up your pants every now and then if they were a little long, if your mom was waiting on you to grow into them, something like that. But you always had the problem of when you wear them and you walk around all day, usually what happens is the cuff comes loose, it starts to roll down into your shoes. Sometimes they get scuffed up, things like that. It'll pull the threads. Anyways, I've noticed that this trend has come back. A lot of adults now are also wearing pants that are cuffed. Some people that are wearing very high-end jeans are also doing this. So what I've come up with the use of the StitchClip is a way to cuff those pants and then put a small stitch to keep it in place so they won't unroll. That's why I call it a semi-permanent stitch. And what I mean by that is you have a pair of pants with a cuff like this at the bottom, but the cuff, when I say semi-permanent, has a couple of small stitches around the edge that just keep it from unrolling. So this will stay in place permanently until these little threads are taken out. So what I'm going to do again is I've already done one side of the pair of pants. I'm going to do the other side of the pair of pants that I've already cut to length, and I'm going to use my phone camera so that you can see what I'm seeing as I do it.
Okay, so this is the pair of pants that we started with. I've already done this side, so at the end I want to have some stitches in here, just a couple on each side to keep it from rolling down like I mentioned earlier. And what we're going to do is be working with this other leg that I've previously cut. So the first thing you're going to do is roll this leg inside out like this. And what you see here is I've got a series of dots located 3 inches from the end and 1.5 inches from the end, because we're going to be doing this with a 1.5 inch cuff and we're going to roll it in twice. You could choose to roll it in once or even 3 times if you wanted, but for demonstration purposes, this is what I'm doing. I used obviously a non-permanent marker here so that when I wash these, it'll go away. So I'm just going to use these dots as a reference. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is push this down until the first set of dots is at the very bottom of the pants, like so. I don't really need to have pins. I could if I wanted to be really exact, but I'm not really worried about it. And then on the other side, obviously the same thing. You want to get these dots at the very bottom. Okay, and once that's nice and tight, I'm going to roll it one more time, and I'm going to put that second row of dots at the bottom, like so. Okay, and what I want to do is just make sure that I don't have any folded fabric inside here. I just want it to be a nice double layer, so nothing crumpled up, anything like that. All right, so this is what we're going to work with. This is the cuff we're going to make. And I'm going to start by taking my stitch clip and I'm going to put it right in the center, right here. All right, so I take my threaded needle and I'm using white thread because the inside of the pants is white, so you won't see it. And I want this thread to start on the inside of the pants and end on the inside of the pants where we can tie our knot. So what I'm going to do in order to achieve that is start by putting it into the major hole at the bottom here. I'm going to pull it till it's almost through, and then I'm going to go to the back of the stitch clip and go into the center of one of the entrance holes on the back. And for this demo, I've decided to go left, so I'm putting it in the left entrance hole, and I'm just going to go around and around. And I'll just go like 2 or 3 times, and that should do it. Let's clip off the excess. All right, so we finished there, so we're going to move it to the left. I see my little stitch that I've put in right here. I'm going to take my threaded needle again, and this time I'm going to go into the major entrance hole on the bottom left of the stitch clip, keeping my thumb on there again. I'm going to pull it almost all the way through and then go into one of the entrance holes on the back left of the clip. And again, I'm just going to go around to the left side in a loop, around it around about 3 times. Now you could be telling yourself, you know, this looks pretty easy and I bet I could do this by hand without the stitch clip. You are absolutely right. You totally could. If you've ever tried to hand sew, you may have noticed that when you're holding pressure with just your fingers and you're trying to do something like this by hand, you can do it, but the problem is that all right, now we're going to go to the right. So I'm going to move the stitch clip over. Now I can see I've got this clip. Now I can see I've got this stitch and this stitch in place. So we're just going to do kind of a mirror image on this side. So start down here at the bottom, hold my thumb over the string, pull it almost through, and then go into the entrance hole on the back. And this time I'll go right. So we'll go in a counterclockwise method this time just to kind of vary it up a little bit. And I'm going to end with the thread on the inside, just like before. Okay. Now you see on this side, I've got these 3 little stitches in there, and I've got the 2 little pieces of string here and in the center and on the right, and those I can just hand tie into knots. And you may be asking yourself, you know, couldn't you just do this by hand without the stitch clip? Yes, you absolutely could. If you've ever hand sewn, you know that it can be difficult sometimes if you are trying to maintain pressure while, you know, going into the exact same hole that you were in earlier. That can be problematic. So with the stitch clip, it takes that hassle away where it's always going to go into the exact same spot, so you don't have to worry about it. Like I said, you know, in a previous video, I have no hand sewing skills, so God bless you if you can already do this kind of stuff by hand. I can't, which is why I use the stitch clip. And every time I do this, I can just cut off the excess like you see here. And we're almost done. All right, so let's get these guys tied into a little knot. You know, also in a previous video, I showed how to tie a knot when you're using the stitch clip. That's not really necessary here. You could do that if you wanted, but that's how you get 3 little invisible semi-permanent stitches into a cuff so that it won't come out while you're walking.
Okay, and that's pretty much it. What you can see now is this pair of pants has a cuff on here that's semi-permanent. It's not going to come out as I'm walking around. It's stuck on here at an exact length. It's not going to come out while I'm walking, and it's here as long as I want it to. Whenever I want, I can cut these little threads with a seam splitter, and I can roll these down and hem them if I want. But if this is the style that I want for the near future, I can do this with my pants. Okay, that's pretty much it for this week. Thank you guys again for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to follow me as I explain another use for the stitch clip. If you know someone that could benefit from this information, if you know someone that's either into DIY or repairing their own clothes, or saving money by not paying full price for retail, or if you know somebody that simply is interested in new ways to keep clothes out of landfills, please share these videos with them. I would really appreciate it. Otherwise, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'd love to have some more followers on this page just to keep up with how I'm doing. I could really appreciate the encouragement as the business takes off. Thank you again for joining me, and we'll see you next time.